This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm Wendy Griffith. Security remained tight today outside St. Anthony's Shrine in Colombo, Sri Lanka, following the deadly Easter Sunday bombings. The death toll now at 321 souls, with another 500 injured from the attacks on churches, hotels, and other sites. Sri Lanka's prime minister says that an unknown number of militants, some armed with explosives, are still on the run. During a news conference, he also says some officials will likely lose their jobs over intelligence lapses surrounding the attack. ISIS claimed responsibility for the blast. Today, devastated mourners and relatives attended the first memorial service for the victims.
I went with my daughter and wife, and I also inside the church at that time. And it's the end of the ceremony, and I just walk outside. And in 5 minutes' time, there's a bomb blast. I heard about the huge noise. Then I jumped into the church, and I saw that my daughter and my wife was on the floor. I don't know what to do.
Heartbreaking. The nation's Minister of Defense believes the attacks were carried out in retaliation for attacks on mosques in Christchurch, New Zealand last month. CBN's senior international correspondent George Thomas joins us now for more. George, you have just spoken with a Sri Lankan bishop. What did he say about how the Christian population is doing in Sri Lanka now?
Well, they're filled with panic. They're very, very afraid. Why? Because according to my sources, there were 27 targets, Wendy, that folks had picked out, that these terrorists had picked out, and only 8 targets went off. And so for Christians, they're very, very concerned. Here's what Bishop Daniel just told me moments ago.
Sri Lankan Christian community, they are frightened. They are frightened because this has happened in their lives for the first time, and which they never expected to happen. We are a peace-loving community. We have been always maintaining that peace and harmony in the country, which has undergone 3 decades of civil war. Irrespective of who we have been, we always cooperated with one another in maintaining peace and harmony in the country. Now we are worried.
And that big worry is that they don't know if they've got all the men and they've detonated all of the potential explosives.
Okay. Now, ISIS has claimed responsibility. What are they saying?
Well, they went, the main agency that sort of picks out, transmits their information, went to social media, and there's an image that we have obtained. We have 7 individuals who are suspected of carrying out Sunday's attack. If you notice, there's an individual right behind the person on the right-hand side, so that means there are 8 of them. Right. But they also released a video, in essence, pledging allegiance to ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, which means that he is possibly still alive. But this was highly produced. This entire image, this entire propaganda was highly produced. So they planned it ahead of time, got in all of their garb, stood in front of the Islamic ISIS flag, and at the right time came out with this. So this is a significant development in Sunday's attack.
Pure evil. George, Sri Lanka's government taking a lot of heat right now for not preventing these attacks. Could they have done anything?
Well, and that's the big question. That's what investigators are trying to figure out. Why? Because on April 9th, the gentleman who runs the intelligence operations in Sri Lanka said that he had released a report, in essence, saying that potential targets had been picked out, specifically churches and tourist destinations. They knew this in advance. 5 days later, another report landed on the table of the National Police, the head of National Police in Sri Lanka, actually identifying the suspects, and yet they did not go in and arrest them. So there's a lot of questions. A leading Sri Lankan official went to the press yesterday and asked for apology from the government, on behalf of the government. But this is a serious question that a lot of people are beginning to ask.
We know these similar attacks have happened in Egypt and elsewhere, but
That's
Sri
right.
Lanka, is this, I know you covered this part of the world,
Sure.
is this unusual, Sri Lanka?
I mean, this level of an attack, yes, absolutely. Last year, there were 86 incidents against Christians in Sri Lanka. This year, from January till March 23rd, there were 26 incidents. But this level of an attack, the horrific nature of this attack, this is very, very unusual. Bishop Daniel said, please pray that we have the ability to sustain ourselves, that we're not afraid, that people won't begin to question their faith, that they won't be gripped with fear. As you can imagine, there's this palpable experience that they've just gone through, and they're so afraid. Where is going to be the next attack? Is it the church I go to, or the shop, or the school? And so there is this sense of urgency to try and get to all of those who were involved. So far, about 24 people have been arrested, and yet the authorities are still saying we need to be on high alert.
All right, George, thank you so much for that. And
You're
we,
welcome.
of course, are praying fervently for Sri Lanka. Well, the Trump administration is offering rewards of up to $10 million each for information that disrupts the finances of Lebanon's militant Hezbollah organization. The State and Treasury Departments say the money will be paid to people who provide information such as the names of Hezbollah donors and financiers, bank records, customs receipts, or evidence of real estate transactions.
In previous years, Hezbollah has generated about $1 billion annually through direct financial support from Iran, international businesses and investments, donor networks, and money laundering activities. The group uses these funds to support its malign activities throughout the world, which includes the development of militia to Syria in the support of Assad dictatorship, and to Yemen in support of the Iran-aligned Houthi rebels.
The payments will be made by the State Department's Rewards for Justice program that usually offers cash for information leading to the whereabouts of wanted terrorists. Well, no more exceptions on sanctions for Iranian oil. That's the word from Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. And as Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem, the decision is being met with both praise and criticism.
Last November, the U.S. granted waivers to 7 countries and Taiwan to import Iranian oil. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said that grace period is over.
Today, I'm announcing that we will no longer grant any exemptions. We're going to zero across the board. Our goal has been to get countries to cease importing Iranian oil entirely.
Iran's Lebanese ally Hezbollah condemned the move.
President Trump does not care about anything, and at the same time, he is trying to punish others by accusing them of supporting terrorism. He is personally practicing and supporting terrorism.
Turkey warned of the consequences to the Middle East.
Politically, it is not right. Ethically, it is not right. In terms of commerce, it is definitely not right. And it is also against international laws of commerce, against World Trade Organization laws, and it is risky for the region's stability.
Yet during a holiday visit to Capernaum, the town where Jesus ministered, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu welcomed the decision.
President Trump and the U.S. government's decision to intensify the sanctions against Iran is a decision of very great importance. This is the way to deal with Iranian aggression, and this is the way to stop it.
The move is just the latest attempt to economically squeeze the country the State Department calls the biggest state supporter of terrorism in the world. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thanks, Chris. Well, a California Supreme Court has halted an abortion case surrounding the trafficking of baby body parts by Planned Parenthood employees. And Charlene Aaron joins us now with more on this disturbing story.
Yeah, that's right, Wendy. Pro-life activist David Daleiden won an unexpected victory last week in California. On Good Friday, a California Superior Court judge vacated the preliminary hearings against Daleiden and his co-defendant Sandra Merritt. And in 2015, Daleiden released undercover videos that exposed Planned Parenthood workers admitting to harvesting and selling baby body parts. Planned Parenthood, along with several other groups, sued Daleiden. He was charged with 15 criminal felony counts for non-consensual eavesdropping and conspiracy as a result of the videotapes. The hearings were scheduled to begin yesterday in San Francisco in an attempt to determine if there was sufficient evidence to warrant a trial. Testimony from abortionists were set to be featured at the hearings, as well as Daleiden's undercover videos. And the case is being prosecuted by California Attorney General Xavier Becerra, successor to Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris, both of whom have been closely allied with and supported by Planned Parenthood. And Thomas More Society is representing Daleiden. In a statement, a member of his defense team commented on the stay of the criminal proceedings, saying, "We are grateful for this welcome development and hopeful that the California Supreme Court will choose to hear and decide the extremely critical issue raised in this appeal, namely whether a prosecutor may exercise his or her powers to enforce the criminal laws on a selective, politically discriminatory basis."
All right. Thank you so much, Arlene. Appreciate that reporting. Well, joining us now from the Thomas More Society is Vice President and Senior Counsel Peter Breen, who is one of the attorneys representing David Daleiden. Peter, thanks for being with us.
Glad to be here.
Tell us, where do things stand right now and what's next?
Well, as you reported, we got a little bit of an early Easter gift in terms of the California Supreme Court saying that they are going to take a look at this issue. And the issue was, can someone like the Attorney General, who is so closely tied to Planned Parenthood and really was having meetings with senior Planned Parenthood staff as they're serving search warrants on David Daleiden for alleged illegal taping, can they continue to prosecute this case, or can we get a neutral prosecutor? This is the first time in California history that an investigative journalist has ever been charged with illegal undercover taping. And I'll tell you, on evening news in Los Angeles, they're having the same sort of undercover taping featured on the evening news. No problems with those folks. And so even in their pleadings, the Attorney General said the reason we prosecuted David was because he was so successful in his advocacy after the videos. In other words, because the people of the country were inflamed by these videos, that's why the Attorney General, the very pro-choice, a very pro-Planned Parenthood Attorney General, had prosecuted him in the first place.
Interesting. Well, Peter, talk about the evidence in this case. What exactly was Daleiden accused of?
Well, he's accused of 14 counts of illegal undercover taping. So that means taping without the consent of the other person. And then the 15th count is conspiracy to do all of that. But the problem is this. All of these undercover tapes were done in public. They were done in places where you could easily be overheard. They were done in convention halls. They were done as part of cocktail receptions. They're in public restaurants where there are waiters moving by and folks sitting in neighboring tables. In fact, it's very clear David didn't tape in private locations. However, I can show you recent evidence, which would be on the evening news in Los Angeles. I can show you investigative journalists on the evening news taping in private doctors' offices. Do they get prosecuted? No. Why? So why are these cases being brought?
Good point. Well, California Attorney General Xavier Becerra, who succeeded Kamala Harris, is prosecuting this case. He and Harris have received considerable campaign support from the abortion industry. Talk about that, and, is that a conflict of interest?
It absolutely is. So I can show you video. You can go online and find it of Attorney General Becerra on election night in front of an "I Stand with Planned Parenthood" sign, graciously thanking Planned Parenthood for being with him from the beginning. Remember, "I Stand with Planned Parenthood" was the key way that they rebutted the videos back in 2015 as these began, and that's been their mantra, trying to get people to say "I stand with Planned Parenthood" and against David Daleiden. So he's hopelessly conflicted, and even since that time, Planned Parenthood has actually filed for a motion to intervene in the criminal case. Unheard of. And the judge has entertained it. Now the judge has said, well, I'm not going to let you do it. I'm not going to let you actually stand there next to the prosecutor and make objections. But the judge has taken substantive evidence from Planned Parenthood, and the Attorney General welcomed them in. See, it's clear they're prosecuting the case together, and we just don't do this in the American system of justice. You're entitled to a neutral prosecutor who doesn't have an axe to grind against you. And I'll tell you, other prosecutors who looked at these charges before the Attorney General took it to themselves, the other prosecutors weren't going to proceed. There's evidence in the record the Los Angeles District Attorney had looked at this case, said there's nothing here, and was not going to proceed. It was the Attorney General, at the behest of Planned Parenthood, who proceeded with this apace. So we're saying that's wrong. Let a neutral prosecutor look at this. And if a neutral prosecutor looks, we know that these charges will be thrown out.
Peter, we so much appreciate you your insights in this very bizarre but interesting case. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Well, a reminder to check out our CBN News Daily Rundown podcast with Caitlin Berg. She gives a behind-the-scenes look at a key story in the news each day in a reporter interview. You can find it at cbnnews.com on the Show tab. Click on its title to listen and subscribe. Coming up, what one leading health expert says we can do to fight disease and stay healthy.
CBN presents The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
We're going to talk about some of the incredible promises God has made to His children.
In Pat Robertson's newest teaching, you'll discover the I Wills of God. I will rescue him, protect him, answer him, be with him in trouble, deliver him, honor him, satisfy him with long life, show him my salvation, and see amazing stories of God's promises in action.
What I felt was loved and treasured.
God spared my life twice in 3 days.
The good Lord had given me a second chance.
Break free from stress and despair.
The Lord doesn't want you to live in fear, but to know the rewards given to those who love God.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit cbn.com. The I Wills of God, your path to overcoming fear and anxiety.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Welcome back to NewsWatch. While Washington politicians struggle with ways to lower health care costs, one leading health expert says we can fight disease with our fork. Turns out our body has 5 defense systems that are activated with food. CBN's Lori Johnson talked to Dr. William Lee, author of Eat to Beat Disease.
You love tomatoes, but not just any tomatoes, right?
Well, foods are not all created equal, and I love tomatoes because they're not only a source of vitamins, but they also contain this natural chemical called lycopene, which actually cuts off the blood supply that can feed cancer and right-size our circulation. And in my book, I write about a study of almost 40,000 men who have eating 2 to 3 servings of cooked tomatoes, and they have a reduced risk of developing prostate cancer. I like San Marzano tomatoes, as an example, because they contain more of that lycopene. Other tomato types that actually are good are cherry tomatoes because they're tiny and potent. And then there's something called the tangerine tomato that's actually almost orangish colored.
So talk about the bread. And that's another thing. We thought bread was on the don't eat list.
Right. Well, this is where science is helping us refocus our attention. And it's not just every bread. I actually have, in my book, talk about pumpernickel bread and sourdough bread. Let's talk about pumpernickel. It's actually made with rye flour, and rye flour is a type of grain. We know whole grains are good for you. That actually lowers the level of a unhealthy bacteria that can be in our gut that produces a toxin that causes inflammation. So eating pumpernickel bread can lower that bacteria, lower inflammation. Sourdough bread, which, you know, I love sourdough bread.
Me too, and it smells great, by the way.
You know, it's got that nice tangy taste to it, is actually made with a bacteria which makes that sour flavor, that tangy flavor. And that bacteria is the same bacteria that's in our gut, a healthy gut bacteria that boosts our immune system, that helps us heal faster, and even helps our brain release the social hormone called oxytocin, which is what we get when we actually get a hug from somebody we love. For kiwi, it actually activates one of our health defense systems, that's our DNA protection. So our DNA can be damaged by the environment. You get sunshine, ultraviolet radiation, you get secondhand smoke that you breathe in, or even when you're at the filling station, if you can smell the fumes of the gas, those are toxins that can damage DNA.
And we saved the best for last, my favorite, dark chocolate. It's so great that this is so healthy for us.
Well, most people would say we don't need another reason to love chocolate, but researchers have actually shown that chocolate contains natural chemicals called polyphenols that are present in the cacao bean that can actually activate our stem cells and help us regenerate from the inside out.
Hallelujah, that is good news. Well, you can learn more about the healthiest foods and drinks on Healthy Living. That's tonight at 9:30 Eastern on the CBN News Channel. After the break, how students at an Ohio Christian college have joined in on the fight for life. What unique creation they hope spreads the message to protect the unborn.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
You know, I think as a father, it's my job, to lead. Just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. Whoa! It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
Millsburg Falls man.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Discover the I wills of God. I will rescue him, protect him, answer him, be with him in trouble, deliver him, honor him, satisfy him with long life, show him my salvation.
What I felt was loved and treasured.
God spared my life twice in 3 days.
The good Lord had given me a second chance.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or visit CBN.com. The I wills of God, the latest teaching from Pat Robertson.
Students at an Ohio Christian college hope to send a pro-life message with a new fashion trend, combining baby clothes with their own. As Paul Strand reports, it produces a startling visual statement of the human cost of abortion.
If you really know what you stand for, you could say or write a statement of beliefs. And if you like to dress up well, you like to make a fashion statement. What if you could do both statements at once and communicate your feelings about abortion when you get all dressed up? That's what's happening with some young ladies here at Ohio's Cedarville University, and they hope what they're doing spreads.
We hope that high school girls, even college women such as ourselves, will at their formal this year or any other opportunity they have to be seen with a onesie or other baby clothes pinned to them, to connect the humanity of the child that belongs inside of that clothing to their humanity.
They call this pro-life innovation a message dress.
When you see baby clothes, you think of sweet things and lovely things, and the children who should be wearing them.
This is the first anybody's ever thought of doing something like this.
It simply takes adding baby clothes to a dress.
The pro-life movement didn't have such a creative idea in place before that people can come around and take part in and join in with themselves. And I want all pro-life advocates who are young women to feel comfortable that they can take part in this initiative.
Stephanie Schlabach was a psychology major, and Anna Edwards is now. Both have studied the mental wounds many women carry from an abortion.
They have nightmares. They get very depressed.
And for women who even are okay with abortions, they still have to accept that they had something that they then lost, no matter what they believe that something is. Of course, we believe that it's their children and thus you shouldn't kill them. But so it's extremely harmful for women.
They have suicidal thoughts and behaviors in some cases, especially if it's a late-term abortion, because that is, they've started developing that bond, even without knowing it, with their child. And when they just force that child out of them and it's no longer living, that does cause a lot of psychological damage.
The horror of abortion is so often unseen. Well, these folks with their message dresses are hoping to make it a little more visible. Those that are being killed and what's really being lost through abortion. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from Cedarville University.
As the world watches from the outside,
it's a big diplomatic tug-of-war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline, Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
Meet the pastors who are preaching the gospel in a fresh, fearless way. I'm Roberto Torres-Cedillo. Join me each week for Next Gen Voices. And watch God transform a generation.
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world-class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
And that's going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. You can find more on the issues you care about most at cbnnews.com. You can also watch CBN News programs anytime on our CBN News channel. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. Email us at newswatch@cbn.com or reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We hope you'll join us next time. We'll leave you now with this look of what's trending today on cbnnews.com.